What's up, beautiful people, to another episode of Conversations with Christian. Man, with yours truly, Ricky Jones Jr. And we also have
O'Neal in the house.
How y'all doing, great people? We thank y'all for tuning in, for listening in, for watching, whatever you are doing to get in contact with this podcast. We thank you for being there, and we're going to have a good time. Now, the conversation is going to be led by Sir O'Neal.
Yes.
I did not know the topic. However, I do want to say before we get started that I had to represent for my alma mater, LSU. Okay, because you came on one of the first episodes with your West Virginia stuff on.
I did.
And so I had to, represent Go Tigers, because we're looking good on that football field.
Well, question. Do you only represent when your team is winning?
I do more proudly.
Okay.
But I do represent regardless.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're not
every day I wear LSU hat.
Okay. And that is striking a test to seeing. I think you got like a purple shirt too, don't you? Like you wear every so often.
Yep. And so even to the gym. So I wear a purple hat to the gym, not this one, but I have a purple hat I wear every day.
Wait, LSU, is that where you got your bachelor's, or
yes?
Where'd you get your master's from?
At Mercer.
Okay.
Mercer University, which is in Georgia.
Do you wear any Mercer gear?
No, I don't have any Mercer gear.
Oh wow.
My wife is my Mercer gear.
Oh,
because I met her there.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting. That is really an interesting way of breaking that down.
That's my mindset. I'm gonna stick with it. So, your time. Now, I also gotta say, somebody dropped in a comment, about us spending money.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it, but somebody was like, everybody's financial situation is their own, but a $600 hair budget, I don't know if I can do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a couple episodes where we talked a little about finances.
Right. That buddy talk.
$600, yeah. I mean, when you have a wife, you got 2 girls and everything else.
Yeah. It adds
things
up.
tend to add up. And that's the thing, whenever you go on trips and
that's
different
not even
things,
bad.
When it's you by yourself, you don't really think. So, funny thing, since you brought that up, I mean, we have a topic that we're going to discuss today, but recently my daughters, it was their birthday, they turned 19, and one of them received her present in the mail. It was a Marc Jacobs bag or whatever, like a tote bag. When I think of tote bags, it's like something you see at the store or whatever, or as you're checking out, like a 99-cent, tote bag or something.
Gotcha.
Anyway, it's a very nice bag, I will say. But listening to them talk yesterday, my wife and one of my daughters, like, oh, wow, that's a cute tote bag. Oh, that's inexpensive. It was like $200. It's inexpensive. Oh, I should have bought 2 or 3. Like, oh, look at it. Oh, my gosh, it's so cute. And literally, I mouthed to myself, $200 is inexpensive. And I was like, wow. I never thought in my mind.
You made it.
I still think that's very expensive in my opinion, right? But they're like, yeah, it wasn't that expensive, $200. But
you've made it,
anyway,
brother.
I guess.
New levels.
Yeah. But for today, though, what I thought would be good for us to do, I got a couple things, we have a rapid fire in the moment where you're going to have 1 minute to answer a lot of questions that I have, right? You're going to have a minute to do it, boom, 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 minute to win it type thing.
Let's get it.
But also, though, the overall discussion, I thought we could maybe talk about communications, right?
Okay.
Communication in the house, communication with your kids, communication with friends, right? And then maybe if you could share with folks, some strategies and different things that they can take away on how they can improve their communication skills, right?
Okay.
Because I know that, in life, we hear often communication is key, right? And literally just a moment ago, I just saw your wife, and I hadn't seen her earlier in the day. So I said, I didn't see you earlier. And, what did she, I said, you have a new hair, do or whatever. But then my wife looked at me and said, well, you're stating facts. Are you trying to say you like her hair? Where I did not say I like her hair, but I was implying that I like her hair without saying it. So it's like there was a breakdown in communication there, right? So we'll talk a bit more about communication and just, the importance of it, and maybe like how you and your spouse communicate, and how you, if there are challenges that arise, how you break those down and how you communicate, as it relates to that. But before we get into that, though, let me get my... Now, Ricky has not seen any of these questions as of yet.
But
so we're going to do a rapid fire. He likes, spontaneity.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask some questions.
Okay.
You're going to have 1 minute to answer as many as you can.
All right.
And not just short answers, but give a little bit of background as to why you made that selection. All right?
Okay, so we're doing this within a minute, or I have a minute per question?
No, within a minute.
All right,
Not
cool.
a minute per question, because
All
there's a lot of questions out. It's going to take up some time. So within a minute, or as many as we can, just so we can get through it. All right?
Yep.
Ready? And here we go. First question, past or future? If you can go to past or future, which one would it be and why?
Future, because I love what's to come.
Okay, future, because you like what's to come. Okay. Peanut butter and jelly, or just peanut butter or just jelly if you're eating that sandwich?
Peanut butter and jelly, because they both complement each other very well.
Peanut butter and jelly. Oh, okay,
Absolutely.
Interesting. All right. Next question. Do pineapples belong on pizzas? Yes or no, and why not?
Yes, they do. Now that I've converted to a chicken pizza person, it does that very well with barbecue.
Okay. All right, we got 30 seconds remaining. All right. What is one advice that your mom gave you that has stuck with you to this day? All right.
Wow,
Think.
that's very good. What piece of
got 20
advice
seconds.
did she give me? She gave me the advice to have your own. Don't be dependent on anybody, because, and this cuts off what she said, but I took it to mean and to know that if you do depend on other people, you'll be limited to what they can do for you.
Okay, wow. All right, next question. Boxers or briefs?
Briefs. I like to be held. Support me.
All right, we are at the minute, but I do have a couple more questions that I've written down that I'll go ahead and ask anyway.
Okay.
All right. The next one is, what is one thing that you always wanted to do but you never did?
That's a good one. Host a, I don't know.
All right, we'll go back to that one later. All right, next question. What is one thing that nobody knows about you?
What's something nobody knows about?
Yeah, what's something nobody... We'll go back to that one later. All right, last question.
Okay.
Which of your child do you love more?
Rain.
Wow! You actually answered that one. That one I didn't think you were going to answer. I was building up to that one. I was like,
No,
you actually answered that one.
Absolutely.
Are you joking or are you being serious
No,
right
I'm
now?
dead serious.
Why is that your answer?
Bro, because I mean it's my daughter. It's a daughter, bro. I think that a daughter needs more love than a male son.
Okay.
I definitely show him love, but I show love for him in a more of a look as I do, follow my way type of love.
Okay.
Rain is more like, let me give you love, because you need to know what love is, so that when you do depart from this household, you know what to expect.
Wow. So you don't think your son needs the same level of love or to be shown so that he feels that my dad was not just proud of me and I didn't just do things to make him happy, but he displayed love, how much he loved me, because you don't want him to continuously feel like I'm never good enough, right?
Yeah, but that's not the same.
It's not the same.
To your question, do I give him the same love? Not at all.
Okay.
I would say that I believe that Crystal gives him the love that's equal to the love that I give Rain.
Okay.
But I don't think even to the same love that she gives Rain is the same love she gives Ricky, which is why I believe that God set it up for a husband and wife to raise kids, because you can't and you won't give your children the same equal type of love.
Interesting. Okay.
You know how I am about things.
I see. Yeah, and you're very firm on your stance and on your belief as it relates to a lot of things.
I believe what I believe,
You
and I
believe-
live through my beliefs.
Wow, I see.
really
Wow.
But I'm not exact about everything, though. I will say that.
Yeah. I mean,
There are some things that I'm open.
it's always it's interesting, because raising my daughters first, and then kind of raising the son and such. Of course, it's different experiences, and how do you display love? For this, and then different people might receive things differently and so on.
Yeah.
Some like for you to show it more versus saying it and so on and so forth. So it's interesting.
But I do communicate my love to both of them. Right?
That's good.
To talk on topic.
Yeah.
Love is definitely communicated to both. However, it is experienced differently.
Yeah, very good. And I'm actually glad that you took it there, because just taking it back to our whole focus on communication. I was just to start. What are your thoughts on how you communicate with your kids, your spouse, your friends? Is it all the same? Do you communicate the same, or are there differences on the way that you communicate with those in your life?
There are differences, right? I definitely communicate differently between my wife and my kids. I have to talk to my kids on the level in which they can understand, right? So I'm definitely more mindful of the words that I say and the verbiage that I use, right? As opposed to talking to Crystal, I can use big words, small words, any kind of words, right? And it will be understood, right? Because if you're communicating to anybody and not comprehending what you're saying, you're not communicating. You're just talking. So I definitely communicate with the mindset of comprehension. And so with that being said, there's that difference. Yeah. But outside of like that nuance, I definitely am pretty the same. I like to have fun. I joke. And I communicate in those ways. Now, there are some times where I do and I am serious.
Okay, yeah.
Which, you know, my kids, my wife, they get it all the same. Now, my friends, I don't know that I've been like serious to my friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's good. It's good for you to know the audience who you're talking to,
right?
To then determine how the delivery, you know, takes place. Because, like you were saying, if you don't have that in mind, then you're just saying something just to say something, but it might not be received.
Correct.
Right? Because
pointless.
You know, like you said, I mean, if you think about big words when it comes to kids or whatever, but at the same time too, I've learned to not discount, you know, or automatically make assumptions based on age.
Boom.
You know, that we talked about, you know, I believe it was a couple episodes ago about having the talk with your kids, right? When you should have the talk and wait a little bit. And actually, I'll ask in a moment if you thought about when.
Oh, okay.
Because I know.
No, I'm content on that being something that Crystal talks about.
Oh, okay. Still kind of. All right, cool.
I'm back in.
I'm still. Yeah, I think you need to have it much earlier. The conversation.
She watches the episode.
But yeah. But it's true though. You have to know and then be mindful of. Okay, my spouse. I'm going to communicate this way, you know, my kids, you know, communicate a certain way. And then also, you know, again, just knowing the audience and then being mindful of the way that, you know, the delivery. So are you mindful of like the way, not just what is said, of course, of how it's said, right?
Yeah. No, definitely mindful of how it's being said because as it's said, it's not always what you say, but how you say it, right? And so with that being said so many times.
You did.
However, with that being mentioned, you definitely have to be mindful of the way you say things, right? Like I'm even talking like this right now just to show when people are talking like this, it's intense. I suppose if I was just to talk like this, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm not like forcing anything down on you or I'm feeling forced, right? So definitely there is a difference in how you say a thing as opposed to, you know, what you're saying. So, you know, you definitely have to be mindful. You have to be attentive to the demeanor of people when you are talking to them because you'll know whether or not you can be intense or if you need to back down. If you've been intense enough and now they're like, but that's me. I'm definitely more observant in my communicating. However, what about you, sir? How do you go about giving something that needs to be said to your spouse, like something that's important that needs to be said that's kind of firm and kind of straightforward? What's your usual tactic?
One of the things that I do now, sometimes I will say I kind of go about it the wrong way, is I like to think about the past. I'm a strong believer in the past helps to drive and determine the future, right? What occurred a long time ago helped to put us in the place that we are now to help to take us to where we need to be. Now that could be something good, right, that has occurred that kind of got us to where we are, or it could be something bad that got us to where we are, and then, you know, you kind of learn from that and so on and so forth. One of the things that I'll do, again, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, is I like to try to think, okay, the last time this particular topic or thing, I took it to Jessica, you know, this is the way that she reacted, okay? So then because of that, I'm mindful of the delivery. Again, keeping the audience in mind or, you know, so on and so forth. So I'm mindful of the delivery. But one thing I've learned, though, with, you know, people, wives, whatever it might be, we're all continuously evolving, right? We're changing in that also to keep in mind what exactly was taking place at the time when that thing was delivered, right?
Has to be considered.
It has to be considered because, okay, Was she upset? Was she busy? What was her, did something occur shortly before that made her react that
was she
way?
on her cycle? That's the thing.
Was that a thing? Yeah, exactly. Like all of the, all of those things you have to think about and put into the, equation to then determine how the delivery should be the next time. Because maybe last time she yelled at me and I was about to bite my head off just because I asked for, I don't know, something small.
Yeah.
But then if I'm asking for the same thing, I need to think about all of those factors that happened before or were, played a role to then say, okay, would the delivery and the reaction be the same? But one thing I would say though, sometimes like...
So let me ask you this with that. Can you hold that thought?
Yeah, sure.
You asked me future, present, or past.
Yeah.
What would be your answer?
For that one, I would definitely go to the future because,
I was definitely thinking you were going to say past.
Nah. Have you seen what the past was like for us?
I don't know how far in the past you're saying, but
I already know.
Your answer of communication.
I will go to the future.
Was very heavy on the past.
On the past? Oh wow, that's interesting. Yeah. No, I will go to the future, bro.
I was definitely like, wow, that's a thought.
Yeah. No, I will go into the future. I think I will go to the future for. I like to phrase my response when I think of that as so that I could learn to be able to come back to the present in order to help change the lives of those who are around me. You see how I'm cleaning it up and giving a good delivery? But really what it is I want to go to the future so I can get them numbers.
What numbers? A lot of numbers?
Wow. So I can get them numbers, I can know who win whatever game, so I can come back.
So let me ask you this. I'm about to steal where we are. So how far are you right now mentally?
What do you mean?
How far in advance of your life and your family's life have you thought out?
Like meaning as far as planning out for the future?
Correct. Even if it's mental, if it's,
That's a good question. I mean...
How far out are you?
I probably would say, it depends on the thing. Like if it's finances or whatever.
Career.
For career-wise, for like... Yeah.
For you. Me? And so have you already thought out what your son's life would be like once he graduates?
Somewhat. So very good question. And connecting it back to what, we're talking about right now about communication. No, for me though, for us, is I'd like to...
You stole it back.
Oh. I like to talk to my kids. We communicate all the time. Like growing up, for me and my family, we unfortunately did not talk as much as, we would or you'd think we should. Literally, I'll be on the phone with my dad. The storm that just happened recently, Hurricane, Ian, that just passed. I'm calling to check on him to make sure he's all right.
Because where does he live?
He lives in Naples. So my family, they live in Naples, Florida. That's where I grew up. So the storm hit Fort Myers, Naples. So I'm calling to check up on him. 30 seconds in, he's already giving me the all right voice. Like, all right, then, all right, I'm going to holler at you. Basically like, whoa, Poppy, that's what I call him. Like, Poppy, like, I want to make sure you're okay. Do you have electricity?
That's good.
So we have conversations with growing up, or I try to have conversations with them. But with my kids, we talk. So I know based on, now it changes all the time, but based on my conversations with my kids, I ask them. So instead of me planning necessarily their future, I want for them to think about and for them to plan their future too, to play a role. So I ask my son, what it is that you're doing 10 years from now. How old are you going to be? You're going to be 21 in 10 years. What is life looking like for you? And I ask him, and he breaks down, tells me exactly. Same thing for the girls, where I would ask them, what does life look like for you? However many years from now, when they were 7, 8 years old, we did all of those things where they told me. Now, of course, as life happens and changes occur, some parts that they said originally, they stuck with. But other parts, adjustments were necessary or made. So same thing for him, when we communicate and I allow them to talk, I'm going to go back and kind of remind them like, hey, the things that you said when we talk, here's what you said and here's what stuck and here's what you said and what's different. So yeah.
Gotcha. So even in that, how do you communicate that to your spouse?
To my spouse as far as...
husband, I, O'Neal, have thought in advance of 10 years, right? That's your number. And so in 10 years, this is where I desire or see the family to be. How do you all have those conversations?
Oh, so this is a good question. So we sit down and, we've talked, and we do talk, like, I know we had talked about finance and, like, how often you meet and so on and so forth. And we communicate all the time. So we might sit down and have a budget talk. We might have a future talk. We might have whatever. But then, like, throughout the day, of course, and throughout the week, and as life happens and as different things that we are a part of, like, start to either, manifest or start to look a certain way, then we talk about, like, the changes that potentially could happen. So yeah, so we don't necessarily have a complete breakdown of, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because in my opinion, at times when you do things like that, you can sometimes put undue burden or stress on yourself, because you painted the picture of, in 5 years, we need to be here. But then if that 5-year mark occurs or whatever, and you are not there, then you potentially are adding stress to yourself or making yourself feel lesser than, because, like, at times when we start to plan for ourselves and our plans don't line up with what God is saying, or maybe God spoke to you and told you a thing and you're doing just that, but then, like, things change or things happen where, it might not what God said, then maybe God, there's a shift, right? You know what I mean? Like, to change in season or change in direction, or now a necessary plan needs to be made to support the adjustment, right? Because if you don't change, then again, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion. So, but we do have things laid out for like a year or 2 years, whatever from now, what we would like, but then that ongoing conversation to then determine what necessary changes might be necessary, needed or whatever. So
now, I think you even touched on the part where communicating is very vital. You initially asked me, is communication consistent between my spouse, my children, and my friends, right? Yeah. And to answer that question, the answer is yes. But I'm definitely sensitive whenever I talk to either one of them when I do communicate.
Yeah.
But I was even going to get to the point of even where you were with the idea that when I communicate, I'm definitely mindful to share the source of where I'm communicating from. Yeah. So I may say, oh, Crystal, oh, kids, this is what I believe God is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Or I may say, hey, this is what I think, this is what I believe, which for me, that gives the family or those that are listening the ability to hear it with that mindset, with the idea that even though I'm saying, like, how God said it used to be the trump card, right?
Yeah.
But I believe that we've grown within my family to the point where we say what God said, but then we also then go back to hear from God ourselves about what was said that God said.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like I just hear what you say and I'm running with it. Like, sometimes there are calls for that. Sometimes it's like, well, let me just sit on it. I wasn't looking at it that way.
Yeah.
But I said it to say, there has to be that as Christians, as believers, we have to have that understanding that when we're talking, sometimes we're talking from what we want, from our own perspective, and sometimes we're talking through what God has shared with us.
Yeah.
And when we talk with that, we have to be vulnerable enough to do so, because that is difficult sometimes, because maybe you don't have a full sentence of what God said. Maybe you have a glimpse, right? Maybe you have a feeling. Maybe you have a word. Maybe you have a direction. Maybe you have something so small that you're like, I don't want to share it. But most often, like, the context comes up for you to share. And you're oh, snap, here we go. But I want to share, but, what I'm saying? Just, hey, God shared this with me. This is all God said. However, I want to share it with you.
It's amazing how you just brought that and broke it down like that, because one of the things, and I was thinking about a conversation that I had with somebody earlier, and how even when God is speaking to us, we unfortunately will sometimes pick and choose either what we want to receive from what God is saying, or even pick and choose what we share with other people, right?
Sure.
When God is telling us, say the whole thing, but then you only say part of it, omitting certain things. And that's when, kind of leads to confusion or whatever. Or maybe the delivery, right, where someone is communicating something to you, but then you automatically either tune them out, or you only receive certain parts and then you block out the rest. Or you don't want to receive it because you don't like what the person is saying or because you don't like the person, right? All of that can potentially be things that are blockers that prevent someone from actually hearing what's being said. So the conversation I had earlier with one of our friends, he's in a relationship. I'm sure he's probably watching this or will be watching, of course, down the line or, one day. But he's in a relationship with someone and he wants to have kids, of course. And when he had first met the person he's with right now, they're not married yet. But the conversation was, hey, and she already has kids. So, when she was saying something, I don't know if she was talking directly to him because I wasn't there, or if it was he overheard. But they kind of talked about like, oh, she's cute. Like, oh, he's cute and this and that. And in the conversation that came up, do you want to have kids, right? And I guess the lady's response was, no, I don't want to have any more kids. But then there was a second half to that statement that he totally disregarded. The only thing that he heard was her saying, no, I don't want to have any more kids. So he automatically said, oh, well, I'm done. I don't want to talk to this person because I want kids myself. But she actually said, no, I don't want to have kids until I get married. Right? I don't want to have any more kids until I get married or whatever.
Yeah.
So then, to kind of connect it all, at times, God is speaking to us or he might say, something to us.
Yeah.
And then we are, or maybe let me phrase it like this. God might send someone to say something to us, right? And it might not necessarily be the thing that we want to hear. So we hear what's said, but the moment something that is said that does not line up with what we believe or what we want, we automatically just tune that person out or don't want to interact with that individual. But then, really, there was a second half to that statement that you totally missed. Or maybe in the way the thing was said. Maybe it was said, but then you didn't receive it that way, whatever. One of the things that I know that I find that's interesting, and then I have a question for you in a second. I find it interesting how, and then you can probably attest to this, right? When it comes to kids or coming to people, period. I might say something and you might say the exact same thing to the same person, but that person might receive what you said, but not what I said.
Absolutely.
Even though it's exactly the same thing. Absolutely. It might have been even delivered in the same way.
Absolutely.
But whatever the reason might be, they didn't receive it from me, but they might receive it from you.
Very true. Very true. And I think you answered, if it was a question, you answered it by saying whatever it may be, right? Because it could be a number of things. So no, it's very true. Yeah. Which, if we're talking about kids, that's why it's great to, as the Bible says, it takes a village. But more than anything, that's why it's good to be around groups of people because though I may say a thing, it may not even be heard until you say a thing to my kids. Yeah. But I'm okay with that, right? As long as what is being said needs to be said and is being heard.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree 100%. As long as it's being received, right?
Correct.
Yeah, maybe just I might water or whatever, and then from there you come along the way and just continue. You might,
I may be the planting the seed. I may be one planting the seed.
You might, and then I might come along and water, whatever it might be, and then from there and in the end, as long as God gets the glory, as long as the thing that we're trying to deliver comes to pass, just whatever it might be.
As parents, our job is to train. That's just what it is. And so with that, we train. But I believe even too, we train by sowing seeds. And so in that vein of the scripture, we sow seeds through our words, through our actions, through experiences, and the list goes on. Yeah. But we sow those seeds in our training, knowing that somebody's going to come across. It could be you. It could be your wife. It could be your, your sister-in-law. The list goes on. Whoever it is, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't use when I hear it come back around. Oh, Pastor O'Neal said boom, 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 and I've already said it, and it's like, oh, you saying it as if it's fresh revelation. Yeah. I don't say that because I understand how it works. Yeah. And I believe each person has a particular role and a part to play. And so it's like, okay, I'm celebratory because it's like, it finally clicked.
I agree.
It clicks, I know, because it's coming out your mouth. So I'm good. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? And, the list goes on. However, you did say you had a question. So what is the question that you was about to get to?
And I'm glad what you just said. It's bigger than us, right? It's bigger than you, bigger than me. So in the end, as long as they do the thing. So the question, spouses. Yeah, exactly. So what is a time maybe you had a breakdown in communication? Maybe it was with your spouse.
Yep.
Maybe it was with your kids. Maybe you were trying to communicate something, but then they heard something else, right? Or maybe they were communicating with you and then you didn't. There was a breakdown somewhere in the communication. What was it? What happened? What could you have done differently? And what tips or strategies or different things you can share with the people on how to improve how they communicate with others?
Yeah, so one of the ones that recently comes to mind was with Crystal. I can't share what it was, but it was like a part where we had a long conversation, and it was a part where I was like, hey, we can do this. I can see us doing that.
Okay.
And that then spawned a whole sidebar of conversation, like, you know, which was, to me, it was like a small thing. I'm trying to see how I can say it without saying it, but more than anything, it's like, you know, we are about to go to the pizza, we're about to go to, I'm not gonna give nobody no credit. We gotta go to a pizza spot, and on the way to the pizza spot, let's stop and get some gas because I want a soda.
Okay.
Oh man, why are you stopping to get soda? Like, oh, you said, you know, I don't know if I want to get this soda because it's gonna delay us getting to the pizza spot, and we won't get to the pizza spot. I really want this pizza and maybe even a salad and maybe some breadsticks. Like, whoa, okay, we're gonna get there. I just want to get the soda, right? So it was like a small detour to the big thing. Ultimately is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I then had to like hear, this is what I did, right, for resolution side of things. I had to hear what it was she was saying, because I believe that when you hear what a person is saying, you get an idea of what they're thinking. Because, I mean, you can only talk from what's within. And so I was just letting her talk. So I'm like, man, how are we even here? Like, this was a small piece to the big puzzle. And that piece, just going to get this soda, wasn't even that important. Like, ultimately, I could get the soda or I can't. I don't have to, but we're talking about me getting this soda for so long that we're missing the fact that we're about to go get to this pizza spot and have a great time. And so I just heard it. And I was just like, hey, babe, like, you know, I hear what you're saying. However, what you're saying isn't actually a key part to what we're talking about. Yeah. So either we can keep talking about that, or we can talk about what we ultimately are really trying to come to an agreement with. But it's your choice, right? And so, you know, she was like, oh, okay, cool. She saw for what it was. And so then we were able to move on. However, the funny part is, right, we then brought on another party to this situation because it was bigger than us. And when we talked to that party, she then started to share what the small thing. And I was like, wait. But she shared it in a good way, right? It was like, it wasn't in the negative sense that she heard it as, but it was in the positive, minute space in which I was talking to it. Yeah. So I was thinking like, why did we make this whole detour? If you heard what I said, you agree with what I said, and you're good with what I said. So it's like, but I say all that to say, right? Obviously that was a very open and maybe a terrible example, but I think the overall point is, when you find yourself in a situation where you don't agree during communication, you have to let the person talk. Yeah. And you listen. Just listen. Because people are sharing what they believe. They're sharing their thoughts. They're sharing how they're able to comprehend with whatever it is that's being said. And so even if you're the one that's like driving the ship of the conversation, just listen. Because you'll get a chance to turn it the way it should go if you're listening, right? Because you want people to listen to you, so just listen to them. Yeah, and it's crazy too. I mean, when you say kind of, you know, to listen, right? We have 2 ears, 1 mouth, so we got to listen as twice as much as we talk. Correct. And some people, they think they're good listeners, but really, no. You know, there's listening and there's actively listening to what someone is saying, because a lot of times what happens is people are thinking about the response that they're going to give. Versus listening to what is being said or shared in order to effectively respond or communicate based on what was just shared. Because I'll say, like, I'm still kind of working on that. I'm working on that, and sometimes I will say I will respond in a way that I know isn't correct, but I'm just kind of in my feelings, or you're being petty. Yeah, I'm being petty. I'll just respond. You know, like
Jessica will say, that's not what I was even talking about. But then,
You're comfortable with it.
But then, yeah, so it's like something, I don't know, I'm just going to make this up. Or she might say something like,
I got this Marc Jacobs tote bag for only $200. What do you think about it?
I'm thinking like, you spending all money and that's on a little bag.
That was on subject.
No. I was trying to think of a particular scenario when Jessica, she had said something, but then I can't remember. I kept on focusing on one part, like basically like, oh, I didn't like the way that you did that. So I'll respond, oh, so you don't like me or whatever. That's not what I said. Like, no, but you said you didn't like the way I did that. So you don't like me and you don't like when I do this ever and this and that, And then she'll come back and say,
such a definitive word.
That's definitive. So then I'll change it and say 9 times out of 10, then you don't like me.
Okay.
That's why I did that.
So you're consistent.
Yeah. So, so it's not definitive. So I'll say 9 times out of 10, you don't like me or you didn't like this. But anyway, no.
Teach his own, right?
We're joking, but at the same time,
I don't think you're joking. And I'm not joking.
But at the same time, I mean, you're right where, we have to listen to, and sometimes one thing I'll say too, not everyone's an effective communicator where they're thinking of what they want to say, but they might not deliver it the way that you would think that it should be or would be delivered.
Okay.
So in their mind, they're saying the right thing in the right way, but then you are not hearing it the way that they're trying to deliver.
Yeah.
So don't automatically start to think, oh, well, that person's an idiot and whatever, or like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever. No, not necessarily to read between the lines, because then that could potentially cause issues, but listen closely to what is being or what the person is intending to say, or maybe even follow up with questions to ask more.
Correct.
So then now you can get further understanding of what the person is trying to say, as well as they can probably explain it in a clearer way to where now we're both on the same page. Mm-hmm. No one's feeling some type of way. No one's feeling unloved or whatever, and you're not like flying off the handles because you think they mean one thing, but in actuality they're trying to say something completely opposite or whatever, so. And
I think it's good if, to your point, if you even hear what is being said and you don't think or you don't understand it, it's okay to repeat it. Like, hey, this is what I heard you say. Is this what you meant?
Yes.
And because even sometimes Crystal will do it to me. And at first I was getting like agitated, like, bro, are you trying me? Like, what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah,
but then I had to realize,
you parrot.
Right, I had to realize, like, sometimes that's the way that somebody's able to comprehend what's being said. And I had to like look past my own ego.
Yeah.
Because I don't like repeat myself. So that's like a thing.
Yeah.
So I had to look past that for the sake of a greater understanding for us both. And so, sometimes that is what's necessary, to your point of a person not being effective in their communication, but then too, it could be the receiver not being able to piece together this, picture that you're ultimately saying with your words.
Yeah.
So, because I believe, here's another one about beliefs. I believe that words create imagery that people are able to see as you're talking. So, Pastor Poe used to always say, do you see what I'm saying? And I think there's so much, that was like a light bulb moment for me. There's so much truth in it because even as you were talking on the previous episode about the boat scenario, I was like there, even though I wasn't there, right? But I could like phantom what it would be like to be in the moment and all that. But anyway, so all that to say, talk.
Yeah.
Talk and keep talking.
Talk and keep talking, and also know that there are multiple ways to communicate. It's not just verbal, right? It's like, body language and, nonverbal, so on and so forth. Yeah, a lot of different ways you can receive information, and just being attentive to the environment, attentive to the person you're speaking to, and, just to make sure that you're effectively communicating with others.
Boom.
So, yeah.
Just like that. So, hey, with that being said, we thank you all. We appreciate you all for listening and watching in whatever way you are attentive to this here episode. We appreciate you. We'll be here for more and more and more and more and more, because there's always something more and something new to talk about that will be able to give you the perspective from two Christian men.
Boom.
So, with that being said, I know you got anything you want to say?
No, just drop it in the comments, section if you want us to say or speak to anything. We're open. We review the feedback that you all provide. So thank you in advance for the comments that you're going to share. And again, just let us know if there's a particular subject that you want for us to discuss. Provide our perspective, as well as just to again add to help encourage, help to uplift, help to support or assist you in your Christian walk.
That's it. So with that being said, we love you, appreciate you. Till next time, peace.